Jacob is running into the darkness. He has just deceived his own father to steal his older brother Esau's inheritance and blessing, and now his brother wants him dead. Fleeing his home in Beersheba, he faces a brutal 400-mile trek into unfamiliar territory. The once privileged son is vulnerable, sleeping in the dirt. Genesis 28, verse 11, notes he takes a stone just to use as a pillow. In this exhausted state, he experiences a massive vision. A stairway appears, resting right there in the dirt next to him, reaching all the way into heaven. God speaks directly over Jacob, offering a completely one-sided guarantee. He promises Jacob the surrounding land, along with countless descendants, and complete divine protection, regardless of his current status as a fleeing criminal. But Jacob's reaction reveals his core character flaw. Instead of humble gratitude, he immediately makes a transactional vow. He tells God that if he provides food and clothing, then he will follow him. Jacob treats God like someone he can bargain with. Jacob finally arrives in Paddan, Aram, transitioning from the harsh wilderness to a settled pastoral encampment. Here, he meets his uncle Laban at a large communal well. Because Jacob arrived with absolutely nothing, he makes an arrangement. He promises to work as a shepherd for Laban for 7 long years to earn the right to marry Laban's younger daughter, Rachel. Laban, however, has his own plans. On the wedding night, using the heavy cover of darkness and local bridal customs, Laban swaps Rachel for his older daughter, Leah. The man who built his life on deception is now entirely trapped by it. The text points out that Jacob, the trickster, is finally tricked by Laban. This maneuver forces Jacob to commit to another 7 years of hard labor if he still wants to marry Rachel. His lifelong reliance on manipulation has made him the easy mark of a superior con artist. The next 14 years degrade into a chaotic and bitter reality. A fierce jealousy erupts between the two sister wives, as Leah struggles for Jacob's affection while Rachel struggles with barrenness. Their rivalry eventually weaponizes the entire household. Both women resort to using their personal maidservants as proxies, offering them to Jacob to compete in bearing them children. This chart shows the sprawling, fragmented family structure that emerges. We see one patriarch and 12 sons born across 4 different maternal lines, all into a heavy atmosphere of resentment. Rachel's specific internal struggle illustrates a broader human error. As the text notes here in her profile, she exhausts herself trying to earn what is freely given, confusing her self-worth with her ability to produce results. Whenever humans attempt to manufacture blessings on their own strict terms, it results in devastating dysfunction and lasting emotional damage. After 20 years of financial manipulation and having his wages changed constantly, Jacob hits a breaking point. He gathers his massive household and quietly flees Laban's estate. He traces a tense path back toward Canaan, crossing the Euphrates River, but he is heavily pursued from behind by a furious Laban. While Laban closes in from the rear, Jacob receives terrifying news from the front. His brother Esau is marching directly toward him with a private army of 400 men. Jacob spirals into panic. He divides his entire family and flocks into 2 separate camps, realizing that no amount of cunning can save him from the consequences of his past actions. He is entirely boxed in. The wealth he accumulated and the deceptive tricks he relied on are entirely useless against the looming threat of his brother's vengeance. To prepare for the worst, Jacob sends his family across the river. He remains completely alone on the banks of the Jabbok, in the darkness. Suddenly, he is thrown into a violent physical encounter. A mysterious man, soon revealed to be God, engages Jacob in a desperate wrestling match that lasts until daybreak. As the struggle finally nears its end, the divine figure permanently dislocates Jacob's hip socket with a single touch. This sudden, excruciating physical breaking directly mirrors Jacob's lifelong spiritual resistance against yielding control to God. In the aftermath, the divine combatant demands to know his opponent's name. God demands a confession. The text here shows that for the first time in his life, he stops hiding behind false identities and admits his name is Jacob, which means deceiver. Immediately, God renames him Israel, meaning struggles with God. It marks the definitive end of his reliance on lies and manipulation. The next morning, the dreaded reunion finally happens. Jacob approaches Esau not with a trick, but by bowing 7 times to the ground, walking with a permanent, humbling limp. True character is forged only when we stop trying to outsmart our circumstances and finally surrender to a grace we could never earn